Shalom Mashpaka. So this is actually going to be an introduction and disclaimer to the video I'm about to show you. So I had recorded a video yesterday that was talking about how Yahuah gave me my identity versus the world trying to give me an identity, and how it's important to let Yahuah give you your identity. And then I was like, you know what, I'm not going to post it, because I went back and I was watching it and I was like, I'm not going to post it, and this, that, and the other. And full disclaimer, I've been going through my own healing journey, because the reason why I'm not on here all the time consistently is because I am submitting myself to Yahuah, as everybody else should right now. So I take times to sit with Yahuah and allow him to show me the different things that I need to confess and repent from, that are deep down inside that I can't see on the surface, and just let him clean the inside of my cup, right? Which is part of the reason why I've been talking about cleaning the inside of your cup recently. I don't know if I've been talking about it on here, but I have on my Facebook page. But with that being said, I had already made it up in my mind, you know what, they don't need to, hear this video. Like, I feel like I'm just getting on there and talking, right? So then I wake up this morning, and then Nakoti had sent me a video testimony of this young woman, and she said her testimony reminds me a lot of your testimony. And it's a 2-hour video, you guys. So I am going to put her testimony in the description of this video so you can go back and watch it. But I said all that to say, she was like, her testimony reminds me a lot of your testimony. So I started watching the video, and I will say this much: she does have an extremely similar testimony to me. The only difference is she got a little further in the occult than I did. Well, there's two differences. She got a little further in the occult than I did, and I came out of the occult a while ago, versus she just came out in 2023. But it's it's a very edifying testimony, to say the least. And again, I'm going to put the link to the testimony in the description of this video. But her testimony, because she just woke up in 2023, that's part of the reason why I've been talking a lot about how we got to make sure that we're cleaning the inside of our cup, and we're in a position to really minister to our brothers and sisters that haven't awakened or are newly awakened, and minister to them properly, not in the flesh, not out of pride and ego, but in the ruach. You know what I'm saying? Because from the experience I've had since Yahuah woke me up in 2019, 2020, when I came into it, there was a lot of pride, there was a lot of flesh. And if anybody encountered her while she was still operating in the occult, even though she says out of her own mouth in her testimony that she really just wanted to know the truth, she was seeking the truth, and this was a sidebar on her way to Yahusha, you know what I'm saying? But if anybody had met her during that time, that's calling themselves Yasharah, that's operating in the flesh and in the ego, they would have labeled her. They probably would have used the word as a weapon against her, instead of as a way to make her free, by introducing her to Yahusha. So that's why it's very important that we make sure that we are the brothers and sisters, that our younger brothers and sisters that are just now being awakened can encounter, to help them walk with Yahuah properly and not pull them into some foolery. I'll be honest with you, as Yahuah is walking with me in this portion of my walk with him, I have come to, Yahuah has brought me to this place of, I'm only looking for fruit. I don't care what you call yourself. You can call yourself an Israelite, you can call yourself a Christian, you can call yourself a Buddhist. I don't care what you call yourself. I'm looking for fruit. Because Yahusha said that a good tree can't produce bad fruit, and a bad tree can't produce good fruit. If you're producing good fruit, that is my indication that Yahuah is working with you on a spiritual level, some way, shape, form, or fashion, right? And it's not my job to go in and then try to tear that tree down if Yahuah is working with them. Because just like this young woman, if I had encountered her, and I'll be the first to say it, if I had encountered her during the time that she was still operating in it, and I was new into the awakening, newly awakened, I should say, newly awakened, there's a chance that I might have been one of the ones that attacked her, versus really seeing that, Yahuah is working with her. Because during the time she's going through this, Yahuah is working with her. He's walking with her through it to pull her out of it, to bring her out of it. You know what I'm saying? So again, I would recommend watching her testimony, and it's around like the hour and 14-minute mark that she says something extremely important. So Please don't skip to the hour and 14-minute mark. Just make a mental note that during that time, pay attention to what she's saying, because she says something extremely important, right? But with that being said, yeah, we're supposed to be operating with the Ruach and not with these. So Yahushua even said, go read Yehukanan, John 7:24. We're not supposed to judge by the outward appearance, but we're supposed to judge with righteous judgment. Righteous judgment is that of the Ruach. We're supposed to use the Ruach HaKadosh to discern a thing, right? A people, place, or thing, right? So with that being said, she was producing good fruit during the time that she was walking through the darkness. And now she's our sister. Now she's our sister. That's the whole point that I'm trying to say. Now she's our sister. But if, again, anybody had came across her that was calling themselves an Israelite but was not allowing Ruach HaKadosh to operate in and through them, they would have just seen on the surface that she's a witch and probably would have discarded her, attacked her with the word, so on and so forth. It's important that we understand the harvest is Yahuah's. We're just the laborers. We have to go where Yahuah says, do what Yahuah tells us to do. Go, you know what I'm saying? Like, we are following we're following Yahuah's instruction. You know what I'm saying? And that brings me to another thing that Yahuah has been talking to me about is intention. Yahushua did everything intentionally. He didn't just stumble upon things. Everything was done on purpose. Yahuah instructed him on the things that he was to do and say. You know what I'm saying? Even down to when he was like, yo, go into this city and you'll find a donkey tied with its foal. Go get it, and if anybody asks you what you're doing, tell them this. You know what I'm saying? Even the woman that had the issue of blood that touched him in his garment, I'm not naive enough to say that Yahushua didn't know that was going to happen. As a matter of fact, his response was similar to what Yahuwah's response was in the garden with Adam and Yahuah. You know, when he said, who told you you were naked? Yahuwah already knew the answer to that question. Just like Yahushua said, who touched me? It wasn't a question because he didn't know who touched him. It was an opportunity for her to come forth and have a conversation with him. You know what I'm saying? So with that being said, we have to make sure that we are operating in the Ruach and producing the righteous fruit of the Ruach, so that when we come across our brothers and sisters that are still being awakened, you know what I'm saying? We are ministers of Yahuah and not covert ministers of Hashatan and the kingdom of darkness. All right. With that being said, here's the video. Shalom, shalom, mashpaka. Gotta be outside. It's too beautiful to be inside today. But what I wanted to talk to you about was, so I was sitting and reflecting with Yahuah, and I was thinking about when he first woke me up, and it was something that he said to me that has helped me all these years, and I'm gonna get to that in a minute. The first thing I want to mention is back when I was in a relationship with my son's father. It was a bad relationship. Both of us were not in the right place. So I'm not going to just say it was him and I didn't have nothing to do with it. We were both not in the right place. However, the thing that I wanted to mention was there was a day that we were arguing, and he called me everything except for a daughter of Yahuah. You know what I'm saying? Like, I wasn't awakened yet, but still, I was told that I was worthless, I was useless, I was less than a woman, so on and so forth, right? And in that moment, because I used to smoke cigarettes back then, in that moment, I decided to get into my car and drive up the street to the convenience store that we had in the area, because they sold single cigarettes, they sold Lucy's, and I just wanted one. I didn't want, because I was trying to quit. So I went up there and I parked on the side, and as I'm walking around the building, I see a woman sitting in the front seat of a vehicle, and I looked at her and I smiled. There was a gentleman that came out. He smiled when he walked past me, and then apparently he went and got in the vehicle with the woman. And as I'm approaching the front door to open it, I hear, "Excuse me, miss." And I turn around and look, and it's the gentleman and the woman. They had backed out of their parking space, and he was kind of leaning across. He had her window down and was leaning across, and he was like, "You have such a beautiful spirit. My girlfriend doesn't smile or wave at anybody, and I saw her do that to you." He was like, "You have such a beautiful spirit, in order to get her to interact with you in such a way." And it made me smile, especially because they had no idea what was just said to me by somebody that I loved at the time. You know what I'm saying? So it was literally like Yahuah put us in each other's path so that could happen. It was like Yahuah was trying to show me that no, everything that was just said about you is not true, right? So fast forward to when Yahuah was waking me up, like officially waking me up. I was working for the Water Authority in DeKalb County, and it was right as everything was starting to shut down. I was the receptionist, so I didn't really have. I hope the wind's not distorting the audio, but if it is, so what? But it was right when everything was shutting down, so I didn't have a whole lot to do, and I was sitting at my desk, and I remember hearing Ruach HaKodesh say to me, "Write down everything I'm about to tell you." And so I made a list of a whole bunch of things that was said to me, but the very last thing that was said to me was, "You are my daughter," right? Yep. I'm sorry, you guys. The wind just started to blow, and it feels really good. Praise Yah. But the last thing that was said to me was, "You are my daughter." And I'm like, okay, cool. Like, something like that didn't really seem significant to me at the time. I mean, yeah, praise Yah, I'm his daughter, because by that time Yahuah had started to wake me up. So praise Yah, yeah, I'm his daughter, but I didn't realize what Yahuah was doing at that time. So throughout this walk, I have had the enemy try to convince me that Yahuah doesn't love me, I'm not good enough, so on and so forth. And I'm not necessarily saying the enemy has even tried to use other people to do it. I mean, there have been some people, but mostly it's just the enemy, like, trying to speak in, it's something in my subconscious that's trying to, like, come up. You know what I'm saying? So with that being said, I have found myself reflecting on the fact that Yahuah said, "You are my daughter," when he was first waking me up. And now I understand the significance of him saying that, because when these moments arise, I can reflect on, this is what Yahuah said about me versus what the enemy is trying to convince me to be true about me. And it's not to say that I'm perfect and I don't make mistakes. What it's just to remind me of is, even in those mistakes, even in those times of stumbling, Yahuah still loves me, and I'm still his daughter, because I'm still striving towards the mark. You know what I'm saying? And that's what I wanted to talk to you guys about, because the enemy always tries to assign titles to us. The enemy always wants to try to identify us for us. But the thing about it is, if we are Yahuah's children, Yahuah is the one that names us. Yahuah, our Father, is the one that names us. Yahuah, our Father, is the one that gives us our identity. And so we should be expecting that from him. I don't need someone to come tell me what my function is in Yahuah's kingdom, because Yahuah told me. I don't need somebody to come tell me that I'm a daughter of Yahuah, because Yahuah told me. And the thing is, it works both ways. It keeps the enemy from being able to tear you down with insults and lies. It also keeps you from being swept away or stumbling over flattery as well. So if anybody comes and tries to flatter me, at the end of the day, that still doesn't work, because I'm only relying on what Yahuah said about me and not what someone else has said about me, because the enemy will come in both directions. You know what I'm saying? The enemy will try to flatter you and insult you, sometimes at the same time. And it's up to you to remember what Yahuah said. It's up to you to remember to stay even-minded. It's up to you to not be swayed in either direction, but just, what did Yahuah say, and this is how I'm going to move and operate. This is how I'm going to live. You know what I'm saying? In Yahuah, we live, move, and have our being, right? So we have to make sure we are only listening to Yahuah's voice, especially in this season that we're in. If we try to turn to the left or to the right to listen to the insults or listen to the flattery, we're going to fall, we're going to stumble, we're going to have to do some work. And not to say that it won't happen, because sometimes it does. Sometimes we accidentally, if we're not careful, if we're not being prudent, if we're not guarding the way we're supposed to, those times will happen. But that's what repentance is for the accidental mistakes that we make, the missteps that we have, right? But yeah, this is just meant to be, I guess, an encouragement to really reflect on the things that Yahuah has said to you, how He has moved in your life, what He has shown you, what He has said about you. You know what I'm saying? Now, one thing I am going to say is, do not be that person that's full of pride, that doesn't allow Yahuah to correct you. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is your foundation should be on the identity that Yahuah gave you, and not the identity the world gave you. You know what I'm saying? And if you're somebody that is just now awakening, and maybe you came out of a system where you were a leader, for instance, if you were a Christian, Yahuah woke you up, and now you're walking with Him, but when you were in Christianity, you were a pastor, or you were a prophet, or whatever. I encourage you to let go of that identity and allow Yahuah to give you your identity, because if you come from that system into Yahuah's house trying to operate in the identity the world gave you, you're going to have a hard time. You're either going to have a hard time if your heart is truly for Yahuah, or you're going to be deceived because the enemy is going to allow you to think that you're doing something great and significant when really you're disobeying Yahuah. We have to let go of the indoctrination of the world. I may or may not have said this on one of my videos in the past, but it's something that Yahuah said to me like about 2 years ago. You know the saying, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, right? Well, Yahuah has been telling me for like 2 years now, no, throw the baby out, because that baby that's in that bathwater is the seed of the serpent. That's the seed of the serpent. You got to throw the baby out with the bathwater and let Yahuah give you His seed, which is His Son, right? And let Him water that seed, and let that seed begin to grow and flourish and produce fruit in you, right? So, yeah, you got to throw the baby out with the bathwater. Every single thing that the world taught you, every single thing, you need to question it, and you need to go before Yahuah to verify what the truth is versus what we were told the truth is, okay? It's very important. So again, these are my reflections. And I just wanted to encourage you guys, because, I told you of two instances. Well, I told you of one instance where, immediately Yahuah came in and had sent somebody to me to lift me up spiritually. And then ever since Yahuah spoke to me Himself and told me that I was His daughter, I literally was just sitting on my bed, and I was thinking about that, because the enemy was in my ear trying to tear me down and tell me I wasn't good enough, and so on and so forth. And Ruach HaKodesh came in and was like, no, remember what I said. Remember what I said. And it's very important. That's very important. This is the reason why we can't grieve the Ruach. We can't blaspheme the Ruach, because we need Ruach HaKodesh. Because if I did not have Ruach HaKodesh, praise Yah, if I did not have Ruach HaKodesh, I would have fallen. And I probably would have started to move in such a way that I would be seeking attention from the world, because now the enemy has come into my ear and told me that I'm not good enough and I'm this, that, and the other. So now I'm starting to feel depressed, right? And I want that validation. So now I'm going out into the world to try to seek that validation. Whereas with Ruach HaKodesh, I don't need to seek that validation, because I've been validated by Yahuah. It's very important. This is very important. So I just want to encourage you guys to remember who you are, to let Yahuah identify you, to let Yahuah validate you, and to affirm you. Do not rely on the world, because the world is fickle. The world's going to tell you what you want to hear in order to stumble you, in order to pull you away from Yahuah. But Yahuah is going to tell you what you need to hear in order to walk with him boldly and confidently. Okay? And the last thing that I don't want to do, Mashbaka, is just encourage you to treat all these feast days as though they would be our last feast days. You know what I'm saying? We don't know the day or the hour, but we need to treat each and every single one of these feast days as though it's the last time we're going to be gathering for these feasts. Because we don't know. There's an expectation that we're all going to physically be alive when Yahushua returns, and some of us may not be. That's just the simple... That's the truth. Yahuah determines when our time is up, and some of us might, in the flesh, expire before Yahushua returns. And the last thing we want to do is not be prepared for that expiration date. You know what I'm saying? And I'm mostly speaking to myself, you guys. So let's just make sure that as we're entering in, it's not a superficial entering in, but it's really an entering in. And I know that it can be challenging sometimes, especially if you're someone that is kind of walking alone on the path right now. I know that it can be a little bit challenging, but I just encourage you to keep your eyes on Yahuah, because that's the only way you're going to make it through. You know what I'm saying? And also remember that if you should find yourself stumbling, that Yahuah already knew that you were going to stumble before he called you, and he called you anyway. So don't let that stumble be what keeps you from him, okay? Get back up, confess, repent, and keep walking, okay? It's very important that you do this, because the enemy likes to get us to condemn ourselves. And that's not what we're supposed to do, right? The righteous man stumbles 7 times or falls 7 times and he gets back up, right? And I'm not talking about intentional things that you do. If you're intentionally going out there and just waking up and deciding that you're going to rebel against Yahuwah's law and then thinking that you can confess and all this other stuff, that's not what I'm talking about. Like, Yahuwah gonna have to deal with you on that. But I'm just saying, if you should find yourself accidentally doing something, you know what I'm saying? Maybe because you weren't fully watching and guarding your heart the way you needed to, which all of us have trouble with that, you know, praise Yah for his Ruach. So just get back up. Just get back up and remember who you are in Yahuwah, not who you are in the world, because we're no longer in the world, of the world, but we are in the world, okay? And I just wanted to encourage you all. All right. Well, yesterday was actually the last day of Matzah, the Feast of Unleavened Bread for me. And so today I'm going to be preparing for first fruits. It's not first fruits yet, I'm aware, but I am going to be preparing for first fruits. As everybody is entering into their feasts, I just want to say, Yahuwah Baruch you. Yahuwah teach you. You know, I do Palal that you all are sitting at his feet and learning from him, praising him, walking with him, and just understanding that this is a very beautiful thing that Yahuwah has done for us. And yeah, much ahaba and shalom.